Welcome back. So here's another session in our introductory section of this course, The Science of the Secret, Handbook for Manifestation. So in this section, it's really the introduction to the science, and really what I'm doing is I'm revealing to you what was revealed to me. And it's important that in this section I make a couple things clear to you, because I don't understand how this all came to me. I just know that I woke one morning and this was all here. The diagram, the explanation, everything. In thought and concept, but not in words. It's taken me a long time in sharing it with individuals over the last couple of years to find the language to express everything that you're going to learn in this course. But I want to give to you the idea of what the total science of this is. And I say science because I think that through our experiences and other things we can test this out to find out if it really does hold true, that it can be repeated and that type of thing. But it's also sort of a scientific framework, and I use words and expressions that might lead you to think that I'm a scientist or involved with quantum physics. I'm not. I'm just like the rest of y'all. I'm walking the street and I happen to study a little more of this and think more on this and pursue spiritual enlightenment and development more than most. But I don't have any degrees in science. Again, I'm doing my best as an everyday average guy walking down the street to explain to you that which has been shown to me, which completely explains almost everything that happens in our lives. Yep, that's a pretty big claim, but it's exactly what it is, and you'll see that once you learn the science of what I've given a name, the time wave of experience. And so what is this? So now that I've given my disclaimer, right, what is this time wave of experience? What is this science of the secret? Well, it's an examination of a single moment in time. We're not looking at weeks or months or years or hours or minutes. We're looking at one single moment in time. And I use the word moment in time when I should say an instance of reality. Pick any moment of reality as you experience reality. This moment, and then this moment, and then this moment, right? I'm talking about one moment in time. Rarely, if ever, will you hear me link them together and have a conversation about them as a stream, except to explain that there's one that we're looking at. So in the Secret of the Science, what we're looking at is how is one individual moment of time, how does it come into existence? Out of what does it rise? What makes it happen? What is the soulful consciousness drive that combines with matter to make a soulful conscious moment for us as human beings? That's what we're looking at. That one moment. And so I say that's the science of it. What's bringing matter together? And what's in between the moments of matter. So now up above this video you will see some learning materials, and in that is a PDF of a diagram, and the diagram is displaying there, but also you can download the diagram. And as I speak here you can look at that diagram with me, and I'll go ahead and pull that diagram up for myself so that I don't miss speaking about any individual part. And so bear with me one moment as I go into this diagram. So we're going to look at one moment of time. The diagram that I'm going to show you here, and I've got it displayed here on the video now, and also it will be in the portal, and you'll find it in several places because it's very important that through all of these videos and through all of the learning and through all of the discussion, we want to make sure that we have the diagram readily available so that we have a frame of reference for what element or what piece that constructs a moment of time. What dynamic part. Because by understanding all of these and examining all of these and talking about all of these parts in this time wave diagram, then you're able to take this exact same diagram and as a standard apply it to issues in your life, instances, moments that have happened in the past, moments you would like to have happen in the future, and what's happening right now. You can use this one diagram to dissect any one moment, and through that dissection better understand where you can tweak it to make a difference. So let's talk a moment about this. So we have the major part I want you to first focus on is this individual red line that you see. It's the wave, okay? That wave is really the root of the entire science. And everything else around it or above it or beyond it are all parts that are important. But it is that wave. Because that wave represents, in the static form in the diagram, the wave is when a moment is at its complete moment of fruition. It's when a moment exists. So there is as that wave is moving up, as it's growing, then the wave comes up, 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 and then how it's represented on the diagram is when it's in its fullness. It's in its fullness. So it begins with that wave not existing. See down there, look at the bottom, it says Universal Pool of Persistent Potential. The UPPP, Universal Pool of Persistent Potential, which is also what we talk about as the God soup. Everything emerges from that. Every moment. Brand new. Then we have the wave, which that's that red wave. That's when it grows until it has a moment and then it subsides. That represents the coming into existence of a moment, and then the dispersion of matter and the declination of that moment. And you have that wave. That's a very important, that wave. And then everything else around it are parts that talk about the dynamic of that wave and how consciousness interacts. Now, look at the top where it says local spirit. Now, it's interesting the word says local, and you'll learn more about that later. But that local spirit doesn't represent consciousness and spirit here in this moment of reality. It does not mean local as in local to this instance of reality. That local spirit is the spirit in its location of origination. That's outside our realm of reality, outside of this dimension, outside of this universe, is where it resides. Right? The band is not in the radio. The soul is not in the body. That you see here, that you're experiencing through the video you're watching in your breath, this moment is a reflection from your soul that has been cast down and has drawn up from the God soup a moment of reality. So that what you are experiencing at every moment is no more and no less than a reflection of your local spirit outside this universe. It's a reflection that manifests itself into a moment of reality, and there's a thread, a connection. We are having a non-local, soulful experience. We are having a non-local, soulful experience. The local soul is outside of this dimension, and through and through an energy, a dynamic it has, when the soul calls down and requires or needs a moment of reality, the universal pool of persistent potential, the God soup, answers and allows, by its will, it allows a moment to be pulled up like the ocean is drawn to the moon, the soul, and then there's a moment of reality. At the very top is our ego. It's our living experience. I am me, you are you, you know. And that moment of reality, every moment of reality, is no more, no less than an expression of your soul that, by the will of that which creates all things, by the pool of perfection, allows that moment to exist. Now, what happens when the moment is over? Do we just then move into the next moment? Yes and no. When that wave descends, it goes back into the pool of all potential. And there is nothing. There is no reality. There is no universe. This dimension ceases to exist. And then, as the soul requires, a moment of reality is created as a reflection of our soulfulness, that local experience outside this dimension. It draws up from the pool, the limitless pool of all potential. Some of us call it God, some call it a lot of things, but it is the soup of all things that can be, ever have been, never will be. It is the pool of potential of any moment. And the consciousness enters in, draws up the moment. The will of the universe is passed on to the will of the ego. God's will, my will, is passed on to the ego. And the moment that we experience is a reflection, a non-local spiritual experience and reflection created by the local soul outside of the dimension. Okay? Now you'll have plenty of opportunity to sort of get your mind around this. Not sort of. We want to get your mind around this, right? We're looking for that paradigm shift. But this changes what you probably think of time. You would think of time as just this continuous happening. And in this science that I describe, it is not a continuous happening. It is a happening and then a nothing. A happening and then a nothing. Do you see the difference? It's very different. Because what it says is that every moment that we experience in this realm as reality, our experience of life, of this carbon experience, carbon-based experience, each moment is brand new. It is completely new that rises up out of the pool of all potential, of a limitless potential. And you will see through this course the profound meaning in that. The implications that every moment is brand new will blow your mind in terms of how it explains many things that you've experienced within your religious context, instant healings and all of these things that church folk experience. A lot of things will be expressed in this. Now, what about some of the other parts? Because we don't want to get into too much of this because each of the videos goes into depth into those. Well, we have our time wave. We have our universal pool of persistent potential, which is the God soup, right? And then you're going to see this V. And this V is meant to represent, it dissects some space to give you an idea of where your control is in this, right? You'll see there where it says zone of spiritual awareness down in that V, down close, down to the God space, right? Zone of our spiritual awareness, which it naturally would be close to the God space. It's not going to be up near the ego. The ego is the very carnal, very non-aware God space, okay? And on that V, you're going to see choice and response, right? So if we were to follow the front end of the wave, there's choices as the moment occurs, and there's responses as we experience the moment. Do we move towards awesome choices on the front end of a moment of reality, or do we just reside in a responsive mode after the moments of reality? Well, there's sometimes when you're going to want to do both based on different experiences. Sometimes you will choose to simply allow the reality to happen and respond with peace. Or there's times when you'll want to respond with peace to head off something that could happen. You could have a choice of peace that then makes your response more passive. But we'll talk more about that when we talk about the choice and response. And notice how that V, I say it can get larger and smaller, which at the top represents how big or small your ego is. And for those of you that follow the teachings that are about the secret and manifestation and the power of attraction, you are aware that we seek to have a smaller ego experience, as some have used the EGO, edge God out, have realized that the greater the ego experience, the less the deeper, soulful God essence experience. And so you seek to reduce as much as possible. You reduce in that V, so you reduce the ego experience. Well, notice as you reduce that ego experience, watch how those crossing lines sort of ride up on the wave line, and it gives more of the will of the universe and less of your own ego will. Less ego, more your choices and responses match each other, less of your earthly animalistic will, more of the God or the universal smart will of the universe, if you want to put it that way. And it's a great place to be when you have that ego in tight. I mean, when you think of someone who's meditating, they really pull that ego down to just about nothing. They've come way down into the soulful space, right? And they've brought even the time wave has flattened out some, where everything is compressed. It's a slower rhythm. Everything is more soulful, more from the essence of the universe. We also have here our zones of grace and zones of karma. A zone of grace being representing just the by grace we have a moment of reality. From the goodness of the universe, it responds to the soul and allows us to have a moment of reality, and then the next moment, right? And then on the back side of this curve, based on how we respond in every moment, we have karma. It's that bank account. I also talk about karma as being that reflective vibration to the next moment. I rarely speak about, multiple moments together. But in this case, when I talk about the zone of karma, I'm talking about that reflective response that echoes across. The good echoes and the bad echoes, as it were. And there's amplitude of reality burst. How high does our wave, what's the amplitude of that burst of wave? And the frequency burst is at the bottom. And we'll get into all of those later. But I would say for this particular discussion, when we want to talk about the science and we want you to be aware of what do we mean by the science of the science of the secret, it's that we're speaking about one moment in time. That curve represents that one moment. The soul experience, it's the non-local experience of the local soul, which is outside of this dimension of reality. And that how this moment even exists is simply that. The soul, the local soul outside of this dimension, calls out. It projects consciousness, spiritual consciousness. And as it projects that by the will and grace of all that is in the universe, that the resting potential rises up and creates a moment of reality. And as that comes out of the pool of all potential, that moment responds to the reflection from the soul, from the local soul, which makes this non-local experience, what we're having right now, be merely no more and no less than a reality expression of your soul. And why is that important to understand? Because everything that you are experiencing at this very moment, everything you have ever experienced, and anything you ever will experience are only experiences which are reflections of your soulful consciousness. Therefore, of all the blessings in your life, you projected them. Of all the challenges in your life, you projected them. Of all the wonderful people in your life, you projected them. Of all the difficult people, yes, you projected them. And therefore, that being the case, you have the ability to have the kingdom of God, perfection, right here in your own experience. You just got to learn what the parts are in the science of your reality. Learn to ride the feedback wave from the non-local experience to the local experience outside this dimension, and to provide good vibes back to the soul. And when the soul drops down some bad vibes, arrest them here. Change the feedback. If sickness and despair comes in, it is in this moment of reality that by the grace of all things and the potential, by the grace of God, whatever words you want to use, if your soul, your local soul outside this dimension, expresses into this non-local experience that you're having now in reality, illness, for example, here is your opportunity in this moment of reality to tweak that. Feedback loop goes back out to your soul and can arrest that vibration from the soul, so that the next moment it reflects itself into this non-local experience, there is less of that illness or even none of it. Powerful stuff, and we're going to talk a lot about that in future videos in these courses here. But you're going to discover that in this time wave, the more you understand the dynamics and how it works, the more you're going to be able to use the different parts of this to tweak it, so that you have by design the next moment, and you're not just living the next moment randomly. Very powerful stuff. So this is the science. We have our pool of potential. We have our time wave of experience. We have our V, which within it helps us dissect those lines and realize where our ego is, where the God space is, how we can move that in and out, how we can have more will of the universe and less will of the ego, how there's the non-local experience of the soul within that ego space, and how the local experience outside this realm is what is actually drawn up like the gravity, like the moon pulls the ocean up and creates the waves. So too does your local soul outside of this dimension draw up your non-local experience in this realm of reality for you. So we're going to work really diligently here. I'm so passionate about this. I want you to learn this as it was given to me and apply it every day as much as you can to get more of what you want, so that you can manifest more joy, manifest anything else that you want in your life. From the soulful perspective, learning to call to your soul, to feed back to your soul that which you desire, and then to have the soul reflect that back and have it be manifested in the reality of the next time wave. So this is a rough example of the science of it, but it's really all you need right now to get moving along, because we're going to look at every single piece of this and describe it, so that then you can tweak those pieces of the time waves so that you can make differences in the next moments of your life. So enough for now. Digest some of this, watch this video a couple more times, open up this diagram, download it, print it, post it everywhere. Talk about it, think about it. And you're going to be able to see how it applies to everything you do in every part of your life. I'll see you on the next video.